Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you are doing great. And in this video, we'll be developing a React Native application along with the Firebase, Firestore database, and the cloud storage. So basically, in the end, we'll be looking at an application something like this one, wherein we can create an entry, like picking up an image from gallery and crop it down, and we'll be giving some name to it. Like let's just give it a name. And if we add entry, it should be reflecting over here. If I refresh this one, the entry is here, you can see. And if you go to storage, the image that we stored should also be reflecting over here. Like the image of that girl with a camera is over here. And we can also view the entry in our application, like what entry we made. You can see name and image. We can also update the entry, like if we go to our database and if I change the name to name of something, if I update the entry, it should be updating over here also. And as well as over here, if we update the image, let's just get it from camera. Let's crop it down, and if I update it now, it should be updating over here. The URL got updated and the old image got replaced with the new one. And we can also delete the entry if you want to delete it. Like if I delete it from here, it got deleted. And if we refresh over here, it should have got deleted from the storage as well as from the Firestore database. So let's build this up. So let's get started. So the very first thing what we will be doing is let's open up a command prompt in a directory, and we'll be using Expo to write our application. So let's go to the browser, go to docs.expo.dev, and let's copy this command to initiate a React Native app. We paste it here and add a -t at the end so that I can select from one of the available templates. Let's wait for it. And I'll be selecting the navigation TypeScript template because it comes along with the Expo router and all that. We don't have to write the navigation boilerplate codes and all. It makes the job very simple. Let's name the app as Firebase app. Wait for a bit to complete. Once the installation is complete, we'll go into the directory of our application that we just created, and we'll open up the code editor now. So we have got a basic template app with the layout files, and let me just connect my phone and run this application so that we can have a look what exactly we are looking at. So just let me connect my phone. Okay, I've got my phone connected now. So let's run the application and see what we have got. So we have got two tabs over here, and you can see you have tab 1, tab 2 that we are going to utilize to write the create entry over here, and tab 2 will be viewing our entries, and we also have a modal that we'll be using for editing our document that we will create. So let's get started with it. So before that, let me just scale my window up so that you can see exactly what we're doing here. So I think this should be visible. Let me increase a little bit. Okay, so this should be fair enough. And before everything, we'll need to install a few modules like the UI library that we are going to use. So we'll go to browser and search for React Native paper, and we'll go to the docs and guides. Yeah, we'll go to the guides, and we'll copy this command and install the React Native paper. So let's go to our terminal, terminate our application, and paste this command up here and wait for it to complete. We also have to install React Native Safe Area context for that. Okay, from V5 there is no need to install React. Okay, we don't need to install the Safe Area context. We'll install this vector icons. Okay, we are not on vanilla React Native project, so we don't need to install this one also. The next thing we need to update our Babel config.js. So if we have created our application using Expo, we have to copy this one. Let's go to our Babel config.js and paste this up over there. Now, okay, all right. So we just need to update our layout with the paper product provider so that our application can access the UI library. Paper, so I'll update paper provider over here. I will change the value to theme to do the job, and also the closing tag for the paper provider. Now we have almost done with the setup of React Native paper. We can use the library for that. Now let's install a few more libraries that we are going to use in this project. So we'll install image picker from Expo. Let's search for Expo image picker, this one. So this lets you pick up image from gallery, or you can click a picture from camera using this. So let's copy this command up for the installation. Let's go to the terminal and let's paste this command, so install. Let it install. We'll be also using Expo crypto. So let's search for crypto, Expo crypto. Let's copy this command over here to install Expo crypto. Paste it here. We'll be integrating Firebase, so let's install the library for the Firebase also. So we'll search for Firebase in here. Okay, use Firebase. Let's see what we have got. So using JS SDK and using native Firebase. So the Firebase JS SDK should be simple to integrate. Let's go for the JS SDK. So let's go ahead and copy this command and paste it over here, and let's install the Firebase. Okay, so we have to create a Firebase config.js also in our root directory. So let's copy this whole code and go to our project directory, and let's create a Firebase config.js. New file Firebase config.js. We'll paste this. We'll get it from the Firebase, the config file, the config data. So let's save it for now. I think we are almost done with all the libraries that we are going to require for this application. So okay, and we when we install the image speaker, we have to update our app.json with this plugin also. So let's copy this plugin code and go to our app.json, and in the plugins we'll provide a comma over here and paste that image speaker code so that we can call the library. And the usage is quite simple. We might gonna need it later on, so we'll keep this page open in the background so that we can simply access it. Okay, all right. So let's get back to the app, and let's go to our tabs and index.tsx so that we can create entry form over here. So before that, let's go to layout and change our tab names. Tab 1 for creating entry, let's change it to create entry, and tab 2 for we'll change it later on so that we'll complete it step by step. Let's run our application and see what we are getting. So I'll write npm run android. Let's wait for the phone to launch. And before that, I think we have missed something in the Firebase configuration. So let's go to the Firebase. Let's search for Expo Firebase. and JS SDK. We are done with this one. So configuring, yeah, we didn't configure the metro. So let's copy this command also and go to our terminal. Let's terminate the app and let's write this so that we can get a metro config.js file in our root directory. So it's generating the metro config.js, and we'll copy this config.js command, the code, and we should be having a metro config.js over here, and we'll paste it over there. And we are complete with the Firebase configuration that we need to do in our app in order to get it working. So let's go to our emulator. I think it has launched. So now let me just run the app and see what we are getting. Okay, we have got some error. Okay, we need to run it again. Just now I turned off the wireless debugging on my physical phone. I think this should work this time. Okay, let's run it simply with npm start. We'll pull up the project from Expo application on our emulator. Okay, now when we give the type A, it should launch the. So now you can see we have a create entry tab over here, and we have a header of create entry. So now let's quickly create the form to upload the data. So we'll go to index.js and we'll remove these two lines over here. Let's put it side by side so that we can get the real-time update what we are getting after the changes. So upon saving, the things have gone from center to its normal position. So let's remove these things also. I will remove this one and create a new entry. This should be fair, and let's center the title. Align self to center so that it can align itself to center. Okay, so this is okay. Now we're gonna create a avatar from React Native Paper. We'll go to the components and we'll look for avatar over here. Avatar image should be fair, so we'll get this one. Let's paste it over here and see what we are getting. So we are getting error because we haven't imported the avatar from React Native Paper. So now we have imported it. So we also don't have this asset over here, avatar.png. So we'll get it from URL. Let's search for avatar over here and go to images. Obviously, we will use any of these, like we can use this one. Let's copy the image URL and let's change this one. Use it from URL. You have to put a curl braces over it and you put URI and the link to the URI. Let's see what we have got here. We have got a very small image, so let's increase the size to around 80. Let's increase a bit more, like 100. This should be fair enough. We'll update the container to align item to centers so that things can get into center on its own. And we'll remove this align self also so that it is not required right now. We'll give bottom margin to our title so that the image and title should be having a gap. Let's give it a 20, 30, should be fair enough. Yeah, this should be fair enough. Next thing we need to do is we should be getting a menu upon clicking on this one, the avatar, so that we can change the image over here from either from camera or gallery. So for that, we'll utilize the list, or you can say menu from here, from the React Native paper. We must be getting, okay, here is the menu, and let's see how they are using it. So it's not quite complicated, it's quite simple. Let's just first copy this code over here. Let's paste it over here. Let's import, update the import from React Native paper. And let's copy a few more codes like this one, visible and set visible. And let's paste it over here. So this should be used to making the menu visible. Okay, we have an anchor thing over it. Let's also import the divider from React Native paper. So, and also we need to add the import to React. We'll remove this React dot because we'll use the use state directly from the React. And now we have an anchor thing. Will not be, our anchor should not be button, it should be our image. So we'll copy the image thing from here and let's just paste it over here. And let's see what we have got. Save it and go to our emulator, and when we click on this, nothing is happening. So what exactly we are doing wrong over here? Let's see. Okay, we have a on press method for open menu. So upon pressing, the menu should open. So let's go to the code, and as you know that image avatar doesn't have a on press event. On press, nothing like that. So what we'll do, let's make it simple, and we'll surround this one with a touch opacity. Touchable opacity should be fair enough. Let's close this and put it at the end also to surround the image avatar with the touch opacity. And upon on press, this one is having the on press, and we'll call the open menu on this. So let's just save it, and when we click on this, we have an error. Cannot convert undefined value to object. And where is this error?
2,000 years later.
Okay, I figured out why we are getting this error. So we are getting the error because we haven't configured our theme properly. So we need to go to our layout, and I'll I'll comment out this line, and over here I'll import default theme from React Native paper, and let's use MD2 dark theme for the dark one, and also update the import from the React Native paper. And now I think this should work. Okay, so we have item 1, 2, 3 over here, and when we go to our index.tsx, this thing is working. So now we'll change the menu items to like pick image from camera or gallery. So we'll remove the third one we don't need, and we'll change the title over here to camera or gallery. All right. So now when we see, we have got two options over here like camera and gallery, and we'll also try to anchor it at the bottom. Anchor position, let's see what we have got option bottom. Let's save it. Okay, so we are getting the options at the bottom, so that's what we needed. Now let's just create a text field below that to take the input from the user. So let's go to text input, and we'll pick up okay, we'll pick up this one and we'll just paste it over here. I'll update the import from React Native paper and text. Let's just change it to name, and we'll change it to set name, and also let's create state for this one. Let's call it use state name, set name, and initially it should be blank. So let's see what we have got in our application. So we have a not so good looking form over here. So we'll update the form so that it can take full width. Let's add a style attribute and we'll give it a width to 100%. Save it. Okay, so now it's 100%. Now we also need to give some padding to the container. So in the topmost container, we'll give a attribute. We'll add an attribute called padding to our style, and let's give it to 20. This should be fair enough. And also over here, where we increase the width of our text input, we'll give a margin horizontal or margin vertical, I mean, to 20, so that it should be having a bit of a margin from the image picker and also the button that we are going to create below this. Let's change the email to name, and let's change style of this one to so for that we need to give mode, and we'll see what we have. We have a flat and outline mode. So let's save it, and the outline mode looks quite better than the before. Now let's also create a button so that we can submit the data. We'll come here and we'll copy out the code for button from the documentation. You can go to buttons and you can just copy this one. Let's paste it over here and we'll update the import from React Native paper. And when we save it, we have a button called press me. We are going to press it, and we also get a command in our we get a console log pressed because it's set to console log pressed over here. And don't worry about this error. This error is from the before that updating the theme provider. So there's nothing related to now. That's long gone. So now let's change it to add entry entries, and also the camera icon to upload. That should be fair enough. Now let's just now let us integrate the Firebase to this one. Okay, before that we'll complete our form so that we can integrate the Firebase later. So the image picker should also pick up the image when we click over here, the camera or gallery. So for that, let's just declare a few fields. We'll also use the loading so that it should not go for double entry in the database. So let's declare a state as loading. Let's set it to false initially, and we'll go back to the image picker and see how we can pick up the image from our device. So for that, what we have to do, we'll first import this one, import image picker, import image picker. We'll paste the code over here. Next thing, we need to set the image to initially to the default image. So we'll also copy the state command for that. Now next thing, we need to launch the image library. Okay, so fair enough. And before that, we need to also get the permission. So we have here con status. This we need this code also to get the camera permission so that user can click the pictures also. So we'll paste it over here. Now we'll also check for the permission status if we have got the permission or not. So we'll define use effect over here. Let's remove the unnecessary, and we'll update the import from React, and let's remove this one also. So we'll check over here that if status, not status, then request permission for the camera. We'll save it like this. And upon saving, it should ask me for the camera permission. So okay, for here Firebase app needs permission for accessing camera. You have already granted permission to other Expo experience. Allow Firebase to use it. Okay, so we'll allow it. So next time if we reload our app, it will not ask, because once the permission is given, it no longer required to ask again. So let it reload. We'll close it and restart it. That's much better. Okay, so now you can see it is not asking any permission from me. So we have already granted the permission. Now let's go back to our image picker documentation, and let's copy this code, pick image, from here. Let's copy this method and let's paste it over here. Not to worry about this one, because we have declared over here null. So what we will do, we will just copy this URL that we had copied as a default image, and we'll just replace this one because it's expecting a string. So that's why we were getting this error. So now when we save it, nothing's gonna happen, because we need to call this method pick image. Well, let's just change it to pick image gallery, because this is for picking image from gallery. We'll copy this name of the function, and over here the gallery will call this one pick image gallery. And also before that, we'll also change the image over here to the image that is selected. So we'll just remove this one from the image source, and we'll write image over here, so that initially the default image should be loaded. Upon selecting, the new image should be loaded. So what we'll do, we'll go to camera, this gallery, and our gallery should launch, and we don't have any images in our gallery. So let me just really quick download an image from Google and see whether we are getting any image or not. So let's search for image. Let's download the picture of this one. We'll download image. Let's download it, and let's go back to our app. And now if we access gallery, we have image of this girl, and when we select the image, we get an option to crop it down. Let's crop it down. We can also rotate the image like this. We can also flip the image vertically or horizontally, and let's crop it. And you can see we have got our image updated over here. The image gets picked up, and next thing we'll do is we'll also integrate the camera, so that we can click the picture from camera as well. So let's just copy this pick image gallery function itself, and let's paste it down over here, and let's change the name to camera. And it's quite simple. We need to write over here launch camera async, and I think this should do the job. And we'll also copy this one, and let's just paste it over here. Where was that menu? right over here where it is written camera. So we'll just call this one over here. Let's see what we have got. We'll go to the camera, and now you can see we have got a camera launched. So when we click a picture over here and click okay, I need to do it again by mistake. I closed it. You just click a picture over here, click on this one, and let's just resize something to this figure, whatever it is, and let's crop it down. You can see we can also get it from camera. So the basic image picker thing is completed. Now we have our image getting over here, and now the name also, when we write it should be saved into the state. And now let's just integrate the Firebase to our application so that we can submit this data to our Firebase database. So for that, we'll go to firebase.com, and let's just go to console. Okay, I don't have my Google account logged in this browser, so I think it is logged in Chrome. So what we'll do, we'll go to firebase.com, go to console. Already I have an app created over here, so I'll not create right now, but you can click on this add project to create an application. I'll use just a sample application from here. Let's just go to our settings, project settings, and we'll go to general only. We'll use the web SDK. And let's just copy this particular config command, config code, and we'll go to our Firebase config where we created it earlier. We'll just replace it. Don't worry, I'm gonna reset this API keys and all so that nobody could misuse it. It's just a time of recording that this exists. So now once we have imported the config, we'll use the Firestore. So if you want to use the real-time database, you can use this one, or auth, you can use this one, and all that thing can be used like the way. So let's just initially we are using Firestore. Let's just uncomment it, and we'll also uncomment the storage because we're gonna use the storage also. So let's call up the method use Firestore. I think that's the method. Store. I think that should be capital F, and here it should be use storage. These are the two methods that we need from our Firestore and storage to initialize the storage and Firestore. And next thing, okay, before that, let's just go to the documentation and see what are the exact methods what we need to call over here. So we'll go to our Firestore thing. Where was it? It's right over here, and you can see we have a few steps. Like we are using Firestore, so we'll go to this one, and we got a Google documentation over here. So we are gonna need uh, web namespace API. What is web modular API we are gonna use. So we need get Firestore for the Firestore. So we'll just change this one to, instead of using use Firestore, we have to use get Firestore. And for Firestore, we have to pass in the app config that we created to our get Firestore method that we called from Firestore, and store it into a constant as DB, or we can use anything. So we have our app initialized over here, and we'll call in, let's declare a constant as firedb, You can rename it to whatever you want, and we'll call in get Firestore, and we'll pass in the app from there. We also need to export this constant, so we'll write export over here so that we can use it in all the places in our application, specifically in the creating and reading section of our app. So similarly, we are going to need this one, so we'll keep it in a tab open. Next thing, we need a storage also, so we'll go to web of the storage section. Let's access it from here, the shortcut. We'll go to web modular API. So similarly, we have get storage. So let's go to our app and change it to get storage. I think the steps will be similar of initializing. So get storage and Firebase get app, and it's simple. That same, the initializing the app thing had to be passed through the get storage function. So we'll just duplicate this line and change it to get storage, and we'll pass in the app and change to store DB or whatever you want to call. And we also need to export this one. So we have our exports ready. So we'll go back to our index.tsx. Now we need to call in those exports that we did in our Firebase config. We'll write import, give a braces, and write fire db, comma store db. I think we named it store db, right? Let's recheck it. I forgot. Yeah, we renamed it to store db. And over here, yeah, store db from that Firebase config file that we created. To go back and go to Firebase config. I think this should be fair enough. Now, once we have got imported both of the things, now we need to create a function to submit this data to our Firebase DB. So let's create a method. We'll create a synchronous method called const const submit data to declare a function. So now we need to check whether the image is selected and the text is input. So what we'll do if, we'll write text name equals blank, or image equals, we'll copy this one, default image that we declared. We'll copy this one and paste it over here, so that if it is a default image, then we'll return and say console log there has been default, something like that. Or you can use it with the toast message to say that whether there is an input or not. So now if we, okay, so we also need to call in this submit data on the button. So we'll call it over here, submit data. And this should do the job. And let's go to our terminal also. Okay, don't worry about this log. This is from the image that we picked up over here. This is the log, so we'll just comment out so that we don't get our junk in our console. We'll just save it, and this should not come anymore when we select it later. So if we click add entry now, then nothing is happening. Why? Let's see. Let's just try to refresh the app and see. Okay, we got the console was free. We were getting the data. So if we click add entry, there has been default, and if we select image, like let's select don't need to crop it out, and we'll also give it a name like girl. And if we click enter now, we don't get the error anymore. You can see we don't have any message because we have input all the field and it's not returning. So once we have our image and the text input, so we'll need to push it to our Firebase storage and the Firebase Firestore database. So now what we are going to do is let's just store these two in a object. Let's create an object. Data is equal to, let's create an object like name as the name, and before that uploading that image into the bucket, we need to convert the image to a blob and then push that blob to our Firebase storage. And once the image is uploaded to the storage, then we get a URL, and that URL we are gonna put it into our database along with the name. So for that, we'll just use this inbuilt JavaScript function called fetch to get the blob from the image. So we'll call something like const image response to fetch, and we'll call the image because it's a URI. We'll get the image. We also need to write await over here so that, and not just jump to the next line before getting the data. So we'll also declare const image blob to our, we'll also write await image response dot blob. This should get the blob data of the image. Next, once we have this blob, so we'll push this blob to our Firestore storage. For that, we need to import a few functions called from the Firebase storage that are import. We'll go to the documentation and see what are the things we need to upload file. We go to this upload file, and we need to import the reference from the Firebase storage. And get storage, we don't need this get storage because we are exported it from the Firebase config, so we'll not call the get storage from Firebase storage. So we'll just import that. We'll call it import reference from Firebase slash storage. This should do the job, and we'll come down over here and we'll just copy this line. Let's just paste it over here. And storage was from the Fire storage. StoreDB, sorry, StoreDB was the storage, and for that for the name of the image we'll just call it we can use the crypto library to get the random generated UID name. So for using the crypto library, we'll call the crypto library, we'll write import star as crypto from Expo crypto. Yeah, we'll use Expo crypto. So now we'll be generating a name. So we'll declare const file name is equal to crypto random UID. So we also need to name the file to as JPEG. So we'll use .jpg at the end. So this should be our file name. Now we'll pass in this file name over here, and we'll in the next line we have to push the image to our storage. So we'll use the upload bytes method. So we'll just copy this particular command and we'll paste it over here, and we can give it that image ref. We'll change the mountain to image ref, and we'll just pass in the image ref over here, and we'll pass in the image ref over here in the storage ref, and the file is the image blob that we want to upload, and we'll update the import from Firebase storage, and we will remove these because we are using a synchronous function, so we can directly do it like this. Image snap is equal to await. We can write like this also. So this should upload the image to the Firestore. Now we can use the snapshot to get the URL of that image that we got uploaded. So we'll just do one thing. We'll write const image URL equals await get download URL. Get download URL is the method from this Firestore storage that will be getting imported, and we'll pass in the snapshot.reference. So this image, the snapshot is the image snap dot ref reference. So this should give me the download URL of the image, and let's just test it. Let's just test the storage whether it is working or not, and we'll integrate the insertion of data to the Firestore after that. So we'll just console log the image over here as image URL. Let's just save it, and we are good to go. I think we'll just test it in our application. Let's just click add entry over here, and let's open our Firestore storage side by side so that we can have a look whether it is uploading the image or not. Let's just click on add entry. So it's going to take a little while. No, we already have a console log over here. You can see we have this, and if we refresh the storage over here, you can see we have the image of that girl in the storage. So we have also got the URL, and if we copy the URL and open up in our browser, we can see that the image shows that girl that we uploaded, the picture of the girl, that we uploaded over there. So now once we have the URL, the file name, and the name that we are getting from here, so we can push that data into our Firestore database also. So what we'll do, we'll use that data constant that we initialized. We'll pass in the name as name, the image URL as image URL, and the file name also we'll store so that we can access the file in our storage later on from our file name. We can write file name. This will be fair enough. Now we need to push in this data that we have initialized over here to our Firestore database also. So for that, we'll just go to our Firestore documentation and see how they are adding the document to the Firestore database. So you can see we have an add doc called from Firestore and collection also called from Firestore. And in the collection, we have passed the DB that's similar as FireDB, and the name of the collection in which we are storing. And the third parameter is the data that we want to insert. And you can see, okay, so we'll just copy this one, and we'll just paste it over here. And we can update the import from Firestore. We also need collection from Firestore, and over here we will use the FireDB that we earlier initialized at the top, and we change it to data instead of users. And this one we can pass in this constant that we declared, in which we have stored the form data. And let's just save it and see what we are getting when we run the add entry. And before that, let's just use that loading thing that we declared earlier, so that we can know that when it is uploading or when it is not uploading. So we'll just use this loading, And when the submit data is called, we'll set this loading to true, set loading as true, and upon any error, we'll set loading as false. And upon completion, we'll also set loading as false. And we'll use the loading variable to disable our button and also to show loader on our button. So we'll call in disabled. That should be same if it is loading or not. If it is loading, then it gets disabled and the loading is true. And also we'll use the loading attribute as loading. These are the two attributes we get with the React Native paper button library. And then click save. And also we'll disable this text input also when the entry is ongoing. So we'll go here and we'll write disabled and we'll call in loading. If the loading is true, then it gets disabled, and once the loading is set to false, it gets back to its previous state. So we have almost done. Let's check what we are getting. So we'll go back in our Firestore database.
A few moments later.
Let's click on add entry and see what we are getting. So you can see we are getting the loading thing, and we have done with the loading, and you can see we have a document written with ID. Okay, so we need to refresh this one. Now you can see a data collection is created and a document is created in which we have a file name, the image URL, and the name as girl that we entered earlier. So in this way you can create a entry into our Firestore database, and you can also go to storage and see we have a new image file generated over here. As it was same as the previous one, I didn't change the field, so it got same image uploaded. And let's just, for the sake of testing, we'll generate a new document. Like we'll select it from camera and click, let's just click a picture. We'll click a picture of this one, and let's just drop it down, and let's name this one to room. And if we click on add entry, it starts submitting, and you can see we have a new document generated. It's called room, the image URL, and you can see the storage over here, and this should be the new image, and you can see the image over here also. One more thing we need to implement is once the submission is done, we will need to reset the field. So we'll generate a new method over here called reset fields. Reset f should be fair enough. We don't need to get it to async. We'll just declare it as set name to blank, and we also need to set image to the default image that we were using before. So just copy this one and we paste it over here. So next time when we click on add entry, now it's not going to happen anything because we're not calling the reset thing over here. So we'll, upon set loading true, we'll also call the reset over here so that it can reset the field after that the data is inserted. Upon completion, you can see it has gone back to default. So this was the create entry part of the things. In the next, we'll look at the viewing of this entry in the list manner so that we can see what we have entered in a list format, and we'll also do the update and deletion part of that so that the document can be updated or deleted from the database as well as the storage. So as previously discussed, we completed our create entry part of the app for putting up entries into our database. Now we are going to implement the second tab to view those entry in a list format. Over here, we'll utilize the tab 2 for that. So let's begin. We'll first go to our 2.tsx Or let's go to our layout first, tabs layout, and let's change this one to view entry. This should be fair enough. Oh, I mean, I have to change this one to view entry, title of that entry. I changed the file name accidentally. So we have got view entry updated here, and let's just change the icon also. Let's change the icon from code to like I. I should be fair enough. Yeah. And the previous icon will change it to upload. You can put any icon you want, but I'll just for the sake I'll be putting these two icons over here. And let's go to 2.tsx. And now let's just remove these things and change this one to view entry. View entry, and we also remove this one, justify content to center, and you can see it has got to the top, and we have view entry over here. Now what we are going to do, we'll fetch the data from the Firebase. So for that we'll just first call our export from the Firebase config. Let's call it import firedb from Firebase config. So once we have imported our Firebase config, so now let's go to the doc of the Firestore, and we'll be looking at read data and look at get data and get multiple documents from the collection. We'll be implementing this thing. So let's copy this whole line. We'll be removing few things that we don't need. So we'll go over here and let's paste this one. And what we don't need are query and where we are not performing any query. So we'll just use these two things over here. Now what we'll do, we'll declare a method over here and write const get data, and this is a synchronous method. So we'll just declare a sync and let's declare a method, and let's see what we need to do. So we need to do something like this. We'll write collection of db and the name of the collection. So we'll just write it like this. We'll declare collection, and db is the fire db we have to pass, and we'll store it in a constant as dbref. You can say dbref is equals to like this. Now we'll get the doc snapshot. So we'll write data snap or data snapshot, or you can name it whatever you want, and we'll write await get docs from dbref. I think we can do it like this, and then let's as this is an array, let's do a for each and print on the console and see what we are getting. Dot for each, we'll say data to, let's console log data. I think this should be printing something on console. So now we'll just create a use effect so that we can call it inside once. Remove the unnecessary part that we don't need, and this one also. Let's import it from the React also, and we'll just try to call this one get data and see what we are getting. So now we'll just check what we have in our app. So let's go here and we'll refresh this thing once. We'll hit R to refresh. Okay, it has got restarted. We'll wait for a bit. Let's hit R and it is refreshing. So we should be expecting a few data in our console to be printed. and we are getting nothing. So maybe we are doing something wrong over here. Okay, we don't have anything in with the collection name with cities. So we have the thing called data. So if you save it now, so you can see then we have a few data printing in the console, which is what we don't need actually. So I think we need to call data.data method inside that. And now let's save it and check. Let's refresh the app. Okay, we have a few console logs like file name, image URL, and the name, and these are the entries that we made last time. So basically we are getting the entries in the console. So now we'll implement the flat list so that this can be viewed in the list format over here. So for that, what we are going to do is we'll first declare a type for our data. Let's come here and write type, and we'll say it as data prop, something like this, equals, we have three things. We have a name, which is a string. We have an image URL, which is also a string. And we also have the file name, which also is a string. We'll be also providing the ID along with the each document. So we'll write key for that. Let's keep it as string. And key will figure out by fetching this particular document ID along with each document, which ID is associated to which one. So we can get that by, I think we can, if we console log data dot ID. Yeah, I think this should give us the ID of the document also. So okay, we can see like we have the ID printing for each document. So now we are getting the data. So we have declared the type for our data prop. So let's declare a state. Let's put this thing over here on the top outside the method so that we can access it everywhere. We'll declare a state for the data prop. We'll write use state, and we'll write data items. Let's declare it like this, and we'll be passing in the item prop, data prop, the type of the data that are getting stored, and it's a type of array of those. And let's initialize it to blank, nothing, and we'll also update the import for the React use state. I think we have done with the use state. So now what we are going to do, we are going to push each document from this as data into the data items. So what we are going to do for that, let's call in data items dot push, and we'll push in the name as data dot name. I think this should be giving us the name of that. Let's just duplicate it 4 times so that we can change it to file name, and also the file name is file name, and image URL as image URL, and also the key as data dot ID should be giving us the key. And once we have data item, we have pushed the data inside the existing data item, and we'll set the data items to the new data items list. So this should be, and also every time this get data is called, we'll set the data to blank. So what we are going to do is we'll just declare a variable over here as new data entries equals as item props. That's a type, or data props equals to blank array, and this is also a type of array. We'll just use this one over here, and let's use the data inside this one, and this should be better way to do that, because every time we are calling this get data, the data will be repeating into this data items. So better is that initialize a array which is blank and complete the array, and at the end we'll set the whole data items to a new array. That would be much better, so that it can replace the old data. So now we have this. Let's do one more thing. Let's check whether this thing is working or not. We'll just remove the console log, and upon calling get data, we'll write then, and now upon execution of this thing, we'll see whether the data items is getting populated or not. We'll console log data items, and let's save it, and we'll go to our terminal. Let's just refresh and see what we have. Okay, we'll restart the application once. So we'll go here. Let's just refresh it and see what we have here. We are getting it blank. We'll figure this out later. I think it is working, but the use effect thing is uh, executing before the data is getting executed. So we'll proceed. I don't think it is going to print any data over here. Okay, we have a data. If we just we don't reload the app and we just change something and save it, you can see we have a data over here getting printed. So now we are getting the data into our array. So we'll push this thing into our flat list. So for that, we'll go to our browser and go to React Native Paper docs. Let's open the docs and go to components, and this doesn't have a flat list, so we are going to use flat list from React Native, and we'll just copy this thing, and let's copy the TypeScript codes. So we have something like this one. We can use flat list. Let's just copy the flat list code from here, and let's paste it over here. Let's import the flat list from React Native, and instead of passing data, we'll pass the data items. Just pass this one, and we also need items from. Let's do one thing. We'll get something from the React Native paper. So we might have a menu or list items, something like that. Okay, we have a list over here, and let's go to list item. Let's copy this list item like this, and we'll go back to our code, and let's just replace this thing like this, and we'll just add a port from React Native paper. So we have imported the list, and the item.id, there is nothing like that, so we have item.key for that, and we'll also be fetching the title from item.name, you can say, and we don't have any description, so we'll just put the file name in the description. Item.file name should be fair enough. And let's just save it and see what we have got in our app. Okay, so we have four data over here. You can see we have four data that we enter, and let's just enter a new data and see whether we are getting anything. We'll just write anything, could be okay. We'll pick up this girl from the gallery again and just crop this one, and let's just add entry. Let's go over here, and we don't have a refresh right now, so we'll just refresh it manually from here and see whether we are getting that new anything data that we have in the. Let's just restart it if something gets buggy. So we'll go to view entry, and we have anything also over here. So now let's add a button over here to refresh the data, so that the data can be refreshed, or whenever we click on that. So what we'll do for that, We'll first go to layout.tsx, or over here outside the layout, the root directory layout, and we will be in the options. The header shown, will put it to false. Over here tabs, the header shown is false, so I think we need to change over here tab screen. I think here we can update also, like header shown to false will set it to false, and we also have to add a comma over. So here is no header now. We'll get the header from React Native paper. So now we go to app bar. Okay, we have an app bar over here, and we'll utilize the app bar header. You can see over here we have four buttons and a title over here. So we'll just copy this one, and let's just go to our 2.tsx, and we'll paste it right over here above this. Don't worry about the error, we'll just fix it. We'll just give a blank tag so that everything can be surrounded inside. We'll just import the app bar from React Native paper, and we don't need a back action, so we'll remove this one. We don't need a magnify. We'll just change this one to refresh. The refresh button should be there, and this one will write get data, and this one also we don't need, so we'll just refresh it, and title will change view entry. And now this thing should be doing our job, and you can see we have a view entry and a refresh button. So when I click on refresh, it's fetching the data again. So let's just implement when we click on refresh, we are also getting a loading kind of thing, that the data is loading actually. What we'll do for that, we'll declare a state of loading. Use state, declare it to loading, and initially let's just set it to false. And what we are going to do over here is, when we call the get data, we'll set loading to true, and after the data is set, and we'll call the loading to false. This should work. And also we have to put this thing outside over here like this. We don't need to put, because it is every time it is just replacing the data, so it's consuming more resources. So we'll just put it outside. This should also work the same, but it will not every time rewriting the new data that we are getting. So what we are going to do now, so we'll also be updating the state of the button according to loading. So we'll write over here loading. So we'll just call loading over here. If loading is true, the button will be reloading. So you can see we have when we click on this, it is loading, and when we get the data, it is just back to the refresh button. We will also disable when it is loading, so that the user cannot spam it. So when you can see, if it is disabled, we cannot click on that. And we also have to fetch the image. So for image, what we are going to do over here is, let's just utilize this thing. We can use that avatar thing. Let's go to our index.tsx and copy that avatar code. This one. We'll just copy this and we'll paste it over here, and we'll write item.image URL, and also we'll just update the import from the React Native paper avatar, and let's also change the size to a little smaller. I think this one should be loading the image, and you can see we have all the images getting loaded from the Firebase storage. And also let's just add two buttons at the end, so that we can perform action like update and delete buttons. So that we'll just do one thing. We'll also calling the new attribute called write. I think there should be a write attribute here. There it is. And similarly, we'll call it with the prop, and we'll be writing button, and we'll write update. We also have to update the import from React Native paper, the button import. We save it. We have update button over here. We also need a new button called delete. We'll be wrapping this thing with a view. Should have a single parent over here. That's why it is giving the error. We update it. We'll close the view tag. And now when we save it, we have two buttons. We don't want the buttons to be like this. We want it to be side by side. So we'll just put a style tag and give it a flex direction to row, I think. So if we give it a row, it is gone. So we'll just give it to column and see what we have. The column is one below another. I think this is because of the middle file name. It is taking the lot of space. So what we'll do is remove the description from here. Now it is taking it has got compressed. We don't want it to be like this. Let's do one thing. What can we do? First of all, let's just simplify these things because it is getting very much complicated. So what we'll remove the whole code from here, and let's declare a constant over here as const render list. Let's just call it like that, and we'll just paste this over here, and we also have to declare the type for the item. We'll use the data prop like this, and we have to remove the braces also. So this can also be done. And over here, what we are going to do, we'll just call the render list, and we'll pass in the item from here, or we can do it like this. This should also be same. Yeah, we have. And now what we can do, now it looks a bit simple. So just surround this with the braces, and so call this from return. Now what we'll do, we'll also give it a style property to our flat list and set the width to 100%. And also we need one more braces around this one. Let's just save it. Now we'll try to fix this thing. If we put it to row, you can see we have the button side by side now, and the file name got in the second line. So we can do it like this. We don't have any problem in doing it like this. So now what we'll do is let's bring all the things to the center. So we'll put it over here, style, and we'll say justify content to center. So this is not going to do anything. We'll also try to write line items to center. Still nothing we have. Let's just copy this whole style thing and do it individually for this one. Let's just do for this avatar image. What will happen if we place it over here? I think we'll need to align self to center. Okay, it has gone to vertical center now, and we don't need the justify content to center. I think the align self is doing the job. So we'll also copy this one again, and we'll also put it inside the view. And here I think we'll just need to do align items. No, we don't need the align self. So if we save it, the button has also got into the center. We'll put some padding between these these also so that it is not sticking outside the screen. So what we'll do, we'll go to the flat list and we'll just set a padding. And here it should be okay to do. Okay. We have a list, but padding is too much. We'll put it to 10. This should be fair enough. So this is the viewing part of our application, and in the next part we'll be implementing the update and delete part for this. Hello, welcome back to our third part of this React Native and Firebase series. In the last part we covered the creating a new entry and viewing entry from our Firestore database. And in this one we'll be covering the update and delete part, how we can update the existing entry like the image and the name of the document in our Firestore database, and also to delete, how we can delete the entry from our Firestore using the delete button. And before that, let's figure out where we can utilize our update page. So I think this modal can be used as an update page. But before that, I don't think this is looking as a modal. So we'll make a little change to our app. What we'll do, we'll go to the root directories layout.tsx, and where we have this tag.screen, we'll pass in a new parameter called as animation, and we'll give it an animation from slide from bottom. Let's save it, and now when we click on this looks much like a bottom drawer kind of modal, so we can use this one. And before that, when I was checking the app, I figured out something, that when first time we fetch a data, we get the data, and when second time when we come back to our first app and we create a new entry, like from we pick up from gallery image, let's give it a name, and when we add the entry, and when we go to our second tab, the entry doesn't loads on its own. We have to click this button to load our entries. So what I'll do, I'll just quickly update it so that whenever we go to the view entry tab from anywhere, this should fetch the data from Firestore. So for that, we'll be using a event listener called Focus. So for that, you just need to go to 2.tsx, and over here we'll be using use navigation from Expo router. It should get imported over here, and we'll store it in a constant. Write const. We'll write it as nav is equal to use navigation, and in the use effect, we'll write nav dot add listener, and we'll call for focus. Whenever this activity is in focus, initially we'll call get data. I think this should do the job. So if we go back over here and we'll go back, it is, you can see it is loading. So if we create a new entry now, let's click it from camera, and let's crop the image down, and let's give it a name. Let's give it a name as room, and when we add entry now, and now when you go to view entry, you can see it is automatic loading, and we get our entry over here. We don't have to click on this button to get our entry. So this thing will be useful later on also when we'll click on update, and when the modal will be dismissed, the new entries will be starting to load on its own. So now coming to the update part, what we can do, we'll go to that modal page to when we click on this update button. So what I'll do, I'll just modify the button. Let's say we'll just put this in a multiple lines so that we can modify it easily. In the update button, we'll just write a onPress event, and let's declare a function inside, and we need to navigate to modal page. So what we'll do, we'll use one more function from Expo router called as use router. When I wrote the function, it got imported from Expo router. I will also store this in a constant. So let's call it as navigation equals use router. So now I'll go to the button, and in the onPress event I'll write navigation dot navigate, and we'll be putting a curl braces, and we'll be providing a few options like the path name where we want to navigate. Path name as we want to go to the previous directory to the modal page, so we'll write dot dot slash that goes to the previous directory, and modal. We'll write modal over here, and we'll provide a comma, and we'll also provide some params. We want to pass in the data like the item details to our modal also. So we'll write params, and we'll pass the whole item through the modal. So now if I click on this, the modal page should open. Yeah, the modal page is opening, but we are not able to view the data right now. So I'll just quickly update so that you can get the data over here. So for that, let's modify our modal page. We'll go to the modal.tsx and let's see what we can do. We can actually do one thing. This create entry page, that is our index.tsx, will copy everything. We'll just copy everything from here, from index.tsx, and go to our modal.tsx, and we'll be pasting everything. And you just have to keep this in mind with this name of this function as modal screen. We'll paste and just update the name of function to modal screen. We just update it, and we'll also fix this Firebase config because it is not two directories back, it is just one directory back. So we'll just remove one. So now if we go to view entry, and when we click on update, the form should be opening in our modal. Now for getting those params, what we'll do is we'll use a local search params method in the Expo router. So I'll just go to the beginning of our function over here, and I'll write use local search params. This local search param should be importing from Expo router, and we'll store it in a constant, and we'll name it as params. And this param should be storing the item that we passed from the 2.tsx. So now we'll go to use effect of this modal tsx, and we'll just write over here set name, because we have already the name state and image state from the index.tsx that we copied to our modal tsx. So we'll just pass params dot name, and we have an error. Okay, so a React Native doesn't know whether the name exists in this params or not. So for that, we have to declare the type of our params. So what I'll do, I'll go to the 2.tsx, and I'll go to the top of the page, just copy this data prop type from here, and where we declared the constant of params, we'll just put a semicolon, we'll just put a colon and paste this type, so that a React Native should know that we have a param of type object, and in which these particular fields are stored. So now you can see the error is gone. Now if I click on save, the name of that particular document has come up. Similarly, if we write set image, and when we write params dot image URL, you can see the image URL also got updated. Now let's just change this add entry to update entry. We'll go to the button below, and we'll just change it to update entry. So this looks much better. Now what we'll do, we will be utilizing this submit data as our update data method. So let's just quickly update the method name. We'll write it to update data. You can name it whatever you want, but remember you have to call the same name in the on clicking on this button in the on press event. And we need to check whether name is empty or not, and we'll be removing the second field and changing a few things, like we'll be checking for name is blank or name equal to params dot name, because the name, if there is no changes in the name, there is no point of updating. So we'll also check that whether the changes is made or not. And image equal to params dot image URL. Like we are checking over here. Okay, we have an error. Okay, we changed the name of the method, so we have to update over here also. So all right, where was I? I think okay. So what I was saying that what we are doing over here is we are checking if any either of these data changes over here. Like let me just go to your update modal. If any of these data changes, then only the update entry should work. If there is no changes, there is no point of overwriting the data in our Firestore. So that's the reason why we are checking for empty or any changes to either of these data. So we'll write here no changes to the console log, and after that what we'll do in the image response, we'll see if there is change to image or not. Then only we'll be utilizing the storage API if there is a change in image, or else we'll be just utilizing the Firestore database API. So we'll check here image not is equal to params dot image URL. There is a change in the image, so we'll just check over here and we'll copy a few things, like we can copy until get download URL, and from the image response we'll just paste this one inside this if condition. We'll also remove this crypto.random UUID because we don't want to give a random name now, because we already have a name in params.file name. So we'll be utilizing when the user updates the image should be updated on the same name. The old image will be replaced, a new image will be there. So we'll be giving it to file name, and all right, and we'll also declare the constant outside of image URL, and we'll be writing it to params dot image URL initially, and then if there is a change in URL, then the image URL should be changing over here. All right. Okay, so what is the error we have? Okay, we have to declare it as variable because we declared it as constant. The constant cannot be overwritten, so we change it to variable. That's fair. Now in this line, we'll just remove this image URL for now, and we don't have to overwrite the file name, so we'll remove that particular field. We'll create an object of our entry that we want to make. We'll use name as name, image URL as image URL. That's fine. Over here where we are using add doc, instead we'll be using update doc, or there might be some. Okay, there is update doc. So update doc needs to be imported from the Firebase Firestore. Here it is. It got imported on its own. And also we have to change this collection to doc. That also will be imported from Firestore only. And over here we'll be providing additional route to our document that we want to modify. That is params dot key, and this key is basically the, let me refresh my database, and this key is basically this particular document ID that we are passing through our, we can query it according to the key of this and modify the document inside. So we can update the params.key over here, and we'll remove this line, we don't need it, or we can just console log the document is updated, document updated. This can be done, we don't need to reset the field, instead we'll be closing the modal after the update. So we'll just remove these two, and for closing the modal I'll use navigation. So I'll just come here on the top, and let's call use router, I think use router from the Expo router, and let's store it in a constant called as navigation, and we'll be calling navigation.dismiss or in the end dot dismiss. This should be dismissing the modal upon update. So I think we are done with the update part. Let's check whether the update is happening or not. So we'll go to the app, and let's Let's change the let's update the girl data on the first. So we'll write it to girl one, and let's click on update entry. Okay, so the document got updated and it got closed on its own, and we have girl one over here. Let's open up our Firestore database and see we have girl one over here. Let's similarly let's check for second data. Like we have a room over here, and when we update the room, let's just in this document we'll update both room and image. So we'll change it to room one, and also we'll pick up an image from gallery. Let's use this image, and when I click on update entry, it should update here. Okay, it got updated and it got refreshed also because we use that focus listener. So you can see the image also got changed. So this is how we can use the update part of our application, and we can update the document in our Firestore databases, and also the storage. That image should have been replaced. So all the three images are same only. So you can see we have the same image in all three of these files. So now we'll cover the delete part, how we can delete the document. This should be quite simple. We'll just declare a new method over here, just below our update, and we'll just name it as, no, we don't need to do it in modal, we'll do it in 2.tsx. Anywhere inside the main function, we'll declare a new method called as const delete data, and this will be a synchronous one. So we'll just declare a function as, and what we can do for this, let's see the Firebase documentation, what exactly the name of the method that Firebase provide to delete the data, and also the storage to delete a file from storage. So we'll go to, let's open up the documentation for Firestore and also for the storage. So we have our Firestore documentation over here. So we'll go for manage databases. No, we don't have to go to manage. We'll have to go to add and manage data. And here is delete data, you can see. We'll just go to delete data, and we can see we have doc and delete doc. And simply we can delete doc like this one. So we'll just copy this line and we'll update the variable according to our application. So what I'll do, I'll just paste that over here. We'll update the import from Firestore, also the doc from Firestore, and this one is FireDB for us, and this one is data. And over here we have to pass in the key of that document that we want to delete. So what we'll do, we'll declare parameter for this method as key, we can say, and we'll be declaring it as a type of string, and we'll also be needing the file name. So I'll pass in the file name and declare it as a string also, string, so that we can also query the storage to delete that file. So instead of DC, we'll write key. What this should be doing, this should be deleting data from our Firestore database. And let's similarly check for the storage also. We can go to delete files and see how they delete files. So basically that's also simple. They take the reference for the file and just pass it through delete object, and then it gets deleted. So we'll just copy these two lines, and then we'll not copy because we are on a synchronous function, so we'll instead add await before that. So what I'll do here is we'll need to import the reference from storage. Instead of storage, we'll pass storedb. That was our Firebase config export that we created, and over here we'll be passing the file name, and the file name exists in our root directory only of the storage bucket. And let's also import this from fire storage, and also we need to add await before this one. And basically this is for deleting from file from storage. So this should delete the data from the storage. So let's call this function or button. Let's add a on press event to delete button, and we'll be passing parameters. So we have to declare it as a function, and we'll be writing delete data and passing in the item dot key in the first parameter, and in the second parameter item dot file name should be passed. And now I think it should be working. So let's go over here and let's open up our database side by side and see whether we are able to delete it or not. So let's just first delete the girl one. If I click on delete, the document got deleted from here. If we can see, we have only 2 documents over here, but we have the 3 document over here. So I think we need to do one more change over here. We need to call get data at the end. So if I just save it, and we'll also add await at the end. So let's check now. If I delete the room one, it should be updating, and you can see it gets deleted from here also. It has got deleted from here also, but it takes a while for refreshing. Similarly, if I delete the last data, it should also get deleted from both the places, and also it should be getting deleted from storage also. There is no file exist now. So we have almost covered all the things in this particular series of creating, updating, reading and deleting of the data from Firestore using our React Native application. If you like the video and learned something, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and also comment down if you want any other topics to be covered in the future videos.